All right. The coming off of our our first conference win, coming off a homecoming win, and I'm very proud of our players 3-2. It's been a while since Akron's been 3-2, and we have to appreciate milestones when we get them. That being said, the Pitt game made that next one more anxious and bigger, and now I think it makes each game bigger because as we get a victory, we move on into the conference, and it just seems that the games get bigger and bigger, and I think the players sense that. I don't think you sense any talk of this team is not as good as a team down the road, or this team or that team is a better team. Every game it just gets critical because now you're in your conference, and every game you've got to find a way to win that one because you don't know what's going to happen the game after. So the true let's take them one at a time. I think it's very, very easy to get across to your players, and I think they have responded well to this point. Miami is a team that I don't want to say scares you yet. They're a very good football team. They're 1-5, but they have played. Chuck Martin has them playing outstanding football. They have played with a lot of confidence, a lot of enthusiasm, and it looks like a team with a new staff and players that believe in their coach. He believes in what they're doing. I mean, they believe in what he's doing. They believe in what they're doing, and they're losing a lot of games with a great. Reminds me of my first year here, when we lost games, but played so much better than the year before, and this is a team that did that. And so we are this is a very good football team and very capable team, and they're 1-1, we're 0-1, and that's the only records that matter. And they won it. They scored a lot. They were down 41-21. You can't 20. 17 at one point. 14 at one point. Yeah, 41-14 at one point, and they came back and won the game 42-41. You don't do that if you don't believe in what you're doing and have faith in your coaches and your people. And Andrew Hendricks, their quarterback, does an outstanding job. And so we're playing a team. To me, it's a much better Miami football team they had last year. And I think what I've said earlier, and I will continue to harp on, and I think it's true, that the distance between the bottom and the top of this conference, if there is a bottom and top, or at least how perceived to be, is so narrow that every team can beat any team can beat any team can lose to any team. Miami is one we'll have to. Our defense is going to be challenged very much as Marshall could challenge. This team can score points. They did it against everybody but one team, maybe Eastern Kentucky or something, Eastern Kentucky, and they can score points. And they play with a lot of enthusiasm. Their kicking game is very, very solid, and so we got to have a good week of preparation and play an outstanding football team against a team that is clearly has a coach moving his team in the right direction.
You got two quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever how you pronounce it, and Hendricks, that come from a cut above.
Right.
That have transferred
Mm-hmm.
into the league, both of them as
Right.
seniors.
Right.
I think what's his name's a junior. But we're to the point where they could play immediately.
Right.
That's something you've been into.
Well, I think quarterbacks, I mean, we see, I call it free agency in college football, today's game of free agency. I think it's very much a part of recruiting and a part of college football today for several reasons. I think quarterbacking always has been. You don't go through a game playing one tailback. You don't really go and playing one defensive tackle, but you almost always go through playing one quarterback. And if you're a younger quarterback or one the same age and somewhere along the line a guy gets named number one, you want to go play somewhere. It's like being the second field goal kicker. You never get we get ahead of somebody, we don't put our second field goal kicker in, and we don't usually put our second quarterback in until the game is out of reach. And so I think quarterbacks continually transfer around, but I think the bigger issue, it's not even an issue, it's not a controversy, it's just a bigger fact, is that because Colleges award scholarships from the freshmen, from the first summer before their freshman year. You get a guy 6 to 9 hours in the summer. He gets 6 to 9 hours every year. The average graduation now for a college football player is 3.5 years. If he redshirts, he's got 2 years of eligibility, and he can transfer freely. And it's pretty free. I mean, they say you have to have a major at the school. It doesn't happen, but we know that's not even a concern of anybody in NCAA. As long as you have a major, you can transfer now. And so many times, a guy who is eligibility is he's graduated, so he got what he wanted out of that university. The university has given him what they guaranteed him. He may not fit into the new head coach's plan or the new direction of the program, and he goes somewhere else to fit in.
Well, that's what I was getting at, because Front Apple,
Mm-hmm.
Hendricks, and even your guy,
Hirschman. Mm-hmm.
all of them come from systems where they had new coaches come in.
That's usually the number one thing that happens is a new coach comes in. First thing, you're trained from an early age in this profession when you get a job is to blame the last coach for leaving you nothing. The cupboard's bare. He left me nothing. It's going to take me years to get this program back. You throw out all the words, and then to some extent yeah. Well, we all do. It's all done. I will say I've had fairly good success everywhere but here. I've had very good first years, but we did not do that here or anywhere else.
But I guess what I'm saying is, what does it add to the conference and to, I mean, because.
Oh, I think it adds to a lot of people. I mean, we played a transfer last week. I mean, the quarterback was from Penn State that we played against last week, and you see it over and over again. There's a lot. I mean, it's not just a MAC conference; it's all over when you look at quarterbacks. And West Virginia just played with Trickett, whose dad was on my staff. Alabama played with another one. On and on and on. You got to remember, if there's 50 top quarterbacks, if there's 50 top quarterbacks in the country, the top 25 schools will probably get all 50 of them, probably, and they'll even get 2. But the problem is, if the top 50 schools got the top 50, the other 70 schools will get none of them, and that same 50 schools got the top quarterback the year before and the year. Of course, every year you get one, and so quarterbacks are going to move to a program where they have a chance to play, and it's I think it's good for both parts. I believe there ought to be more transferability in college. Coaches leave on a whim. They leave at the drop of a hat. They get fired at the drop of a hat, and but they will leave when a better opportunity arises, and they're allowed to coach the next year. But a player goes to and many players go to a program. We say a young man should be, and I know we're off on a whole different tangent, but we'll talk about it. They say a player should be more interested in what school he goes to and not the staff, but who's kidding us? If they ran a wishbone and he was a drop-back quarterback, that's an extreme example, but all the time recruits go to programs because of the coaches that are recruiting them, and then when those coaches leave, that school is not as appealing to them as it was the staff. So anyway, that's a reality, and I think in the Mid-American Conference, it's been a reality. If you look at every team in the conference and look at offensive linemen, defensive linemen, quarterbacks, there is a sample of transfers who have benefited these programs and benefited the young men that are playing. Most importantly, from an NCAA standpoint, it gives student athletes a chance to play the game.
Is this one of those weeks where you have to look to stop the pass first as opposed to
they run a little bit. Their quarterback runs. They have a running game built in a little bit. We've tried to get ours a little bit better. They do a pretty good job at running, but I think I don't know. I think you got to stop both. You got to be ready, prepared to do both. But I think that's obvious. I think you've got to slow down their offense, and you got to be able to reduce the numbers of this quarterback in their offense. And then offensively, we've got to accept the challenge that this offense is maybe a notch above several that we've played, and we've got to put 4 quarters together as an offense as well.
Have you been able to look at what Hendricks does well? Do you know what he does well?
Yeah, I mean he throws it very well, and they run different types of quarterback runs. They run the midline option. They run a ride in the side to the outside, the midline where the box go across. He comes up the middle. They do a good job of mixing the run in with the pass with their quarterback, and again, I've watched it several times because I was watching defenses that played against them, Marshall and others, because I'm mostly, as an offensive coach, I'm watching their defense, but I have seen them several times because of teams they played that we play, and watch their offense against other people's defense. And so we'll have to stop a little bit of everything, and but it'll be a great challenge. I know our defense feels like they are extremely mentally know they're going to be challenged this week, and we've got to rise to the occasion.
They played so well for 3 quarters against Eastern after the first drive.
Sure.
They scored, but it seemed like you said after the game on Saturday, offensively, you wore them down mostly with the run. Like
Right.
O'Connor got
Right.
the touchdown, but it seemed like the whole second half, when you started to run the ball, I mean, those holes weren't there at the still.
Well, I mean, quite often a team is fired up. They have a week off. They're doing some things that we can't handle. And if we're not, some teams can run no matter what you do. That's what they do. I'm not sure that's us. I want to have an offense that if people overload the run, I'm not going to run just to have something nice written about me. I'm going to throw it. I'm going to throw it till they stop it. But if they spread out and stop the pass, then I want to run. I just think you got to be able to run better than we had been running it, and we're getting better at it. I've agreed with anything that's been said about the run, but as you got to learn to take what they give you. I've always felt that you work on your running game in the off season. You do what you do best during the season. Once you get there, if your line didn't gel like you wanted it to, your tackles didn't, or your running backs are injured, you better find a way to win the game with the talent you've got and the style that you've got to use. But if you're preparing to have a winning program, most of the time, if you don't have a balanced offense, I'm not sure you can go as far as you want to go. So I'm just pleased last 2 games, the running game. Now, and you look at the stats. I think Cal Pohl had one of his best passing games of his career. I mean, 68% passing, 2 touchdown passes, 300-something yards passing, and the running game was big, but it goes together. I mean, 197. I just think we are a team that spreads it out. And so we need the running game to go again.
Did that 91-yard drive to get the lead, was that sort of the momentum changer for you?
No, because I think we got the 7-6 lead, but then we still were struggling. I mean, we still hadn't gotten out of it. We didn't have it all won by then. I mean, I wish I could tell you we did. In fact, when we had the turnover in the yard line, we had to kick a field goal. We didn't stick it in the end zone. So we're still out there. I mean, give Eastern Michigan credit. They came out ready to play. They had some wrinkles. They did a good job. And we could see, and we came out in the second half, stopped them, drove and scored, game over. But in the first half, Eastern Michigan was keeping it nip and tuck, and we didn't call plays a lot differently in the first half. We just didn't execute quite as well, and the defense did a better job of stopping us. But this week we've got a team that I think Miami will be a little better football team right now with what they put on the field Saturday.
I'll have to ask a question about the defense.
Mhm.
But guys like Jatavis Brown and Norley Cappy, are these guys just progressing? Are they playing about as well now as
They've ever played. I mean, Jatavius is playing. I mean, he's all over the field, playing a lot of snaps and making a lot of plays. 14 or 15, I think. Finally, his tackle chart went up to that. Norley Cappy, a couple sacks, and playing with a lot of high intensity. And yeah, they're now. We got to get everybody. They're playing at the top of their game right now, and we need that to continue to happen. Defensively, I want to make sure that we remain a team that plays outstanding defense, doesn't turn the ball over, and can run the ball enough to keep people off balance. Because those 3 things have been in our wins, most of the ones we've won. That's what we've in the last 2 wins we've had. That kind of balance has been put together. We turned the ball over 1 time against Pittsburgh in the end zone going in, and then we turned over 0 against Eastern Michigan, 0 against the first game too. The one game we lost, the game that we got beat handily. We had 4 turnovers in the first half. We got so far behind it, we didn't catch up. Turnovers are very important.
This is kind of a ticky-tack thing, but I'm kind of assuming your guys thought that guy was calling for a fair catch on that punt.
Yeah, we really did, because we've had outstanding special teams. We've had outstanding special
Yeah.
teams. Field position's been very important to our game plan, because our defense is playing well, and we're not afraid to punt the ball and or not throw the ball crazy on 3rd and long, because our defense plays well, and we've had great coverage. It was a kick that wasn't very long. We saw the replay. I mean, I can see that to me, the motion was enough for every one of his players to quit blocking, every one of our players to quit tackling. Then after he caught it, he paused for a second, then he ran. That would indicate to me that even though it wasn't a strong motion, it was more like as he ran up, it was this. To me, I would just say for safety reasons and for all the reasons you'd want, that if you're going to err in favor of a fair catch, not a non-fair catch. But anyway, we learned some lessons there, which is valuable when you don't. We did not give up a point on that big punt return. We held them to no points on that punt return, and we were able to go show the video, say, man, we can't relax, we can't assume anything, because this is what happens when we assume the guy fair caught. Let's go get around him and don't let him have a chance.
I thought the rule was your hand had to be above your head.
I don't know where the gesture is, but
I thought if you're here.
he wasn't there. He wasn't. Well, okay, let's just say he was here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say he was here. I'm just saying is, any gesture like that, it was enough to make his people stop. It was enough to make our people stop. And after he caught it, he didn't catch it on the fly. He caught it, stopped, paused for a second. Nobody was around him. He took off. And it would just suggest to me that he probably second-guessed. He probably wasn't sure what he wanted to do. He did not make a good fair catch call. If it was maybe not even a full fair catch call.
I thought maybe he was telling his guys to get away.
No, I didn't. But regardless, it's a lesson that needs to be learned. If it's close, cover it. If it's close, cover it. But really, we had the wind at our back. Zach Paul has been punting at a mile. He ends up having for him a bad punt. He under punts his cover. He under kick punts his coverage. We outrun it, and then we think the guy's going to let the ball go in the end zone, so we're going to try to get behind the ball. And so, especially after we see what gesture we thought as he goes running up. Whatever we thought that was a gesture that he was going to fair catch it. We ran behind him with half our guys, and so there's some lessons to be learned there. It was one of those where how close to the goal line before people go past it and try to keep it from the end zone. All those things that we saw that we have to correct.
But I mean in terms of even hitting the guy.
Yeah.
Because if the guy does this,
Yeah.
to me, he's still open to being hit as opposed to doing this.
I bet you official will flag. I bet if he does that and you hit him, I bet you the officials won't, because the game is about safety. If it's about protecting. I'm just saying is, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. My thoughts would be, if you're going to err on a hit in the head or err on a hit to an unprotected defender, you're going to err on the line of protection. Regardless, we have to do exactly what y'all suggest. If it ain't close, cover it. I didn't say hit him. If it's close, don't hit him. Just cover him. Cover him up. And we didn't cover him up.
I hate to bring up another, that's not really.
Well, no, you don't. Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just, I didn't even clarify.
You can't do it twice and say you hate to do that.
That's true. I've
What?
never seen Travis Schweitzer call for false starts before, and he gets like.
We had some concerns. We had 5 false starts.
Right.
And we had 2 snaps that went out too soon. So we've had some things to work on.
Okay, but on the center, is that something technically, or?
Just some things that we need to work
Is that
on.
a
I don't think
cadence thing, or is it-
it's just one of those things that we as a,
Patting the football.
what's that?
Was he patting the football?
I'm not going to tell you what he was doing, man. I'm not. Let's let Miami study our film and figure some of these things out themselves. Let's put it in the paper exactly what we got to make some corrections, and we've got to because that's an inordinate number of procedures, and just like if we jump off sides too much, we know we're not watching the ball. We're listening to the cadence, and if we have a link to procedure, we're not doing something sync wise, and we got an idea that we some things we better correct. It's going to cost us. But we had 15 penalties and 11 on our offensive line
Is that
Saturday.
something an opposing coach sees and goes up to the official and says, listen, I've been watching film and this guy does?
Absolutely. They'll warn a guy. That when the officials come to my office, if we see anything, that even if it's close, we're going to warn him so many times that they think they have to see it.
Is that something?
For example, last year against UMass, they jumped over our field goal offensive line to block a field goal, and they had done it in practice a couple times, and they'd done it a little bit, and when the time they did it, they didn't do it that bad. They called them, we took the field goal off the board and ran the clock out and won the game. And but you warn the guys, and we try to warn a lot, and I'm sure. But right now, sometimes you just do some things that sometimes you do some things that you got to correct.